Welcome back to the Forza Juventus podcast. I'm your host, Enrique, and joined, as always, with me is Anthony. And last episode, I said it, there was no hope. I think there's hope. It's been um, 3 games since Tudor was fired. We've had 2 games in charge with Luciano Spalletti being confirmed as coach, and we had 1 game with Brambilla, who filled in the role against Udinese. And it's looking okay. I think the players from the initial reaction got a bit of a reality check, and um, I think that the stuff we've seen on the field as well is that we now have a coach who is tactically sound and knows what he's doing. Anthony, let's hear your initial reactions to the Spalletti hiring and how you've seen him since he's come in.
Well, I'm not a fan of Spalletti, never have been. Not too psyched about him being here, but he's a very experienced coach. That's a good thing. And I think most importantly, we're getting that new manager bounce right now. And a lot of the former players calling these guys out, I think was really helpful, especially in Dusan's case, who's been excellent ever since Tudor left. So we'll see how long it continues. I think the red flags are still there, but so far, the results are the results. So we're what 3-0 now with or 2-1, 2-1-0.
Yep.
Yeah. So it's okay. I mean, I think the Sporting game is probably the worst of them. But are we sliding back down, or are we going to keep maintaining form? We do have a very easy schedule here, so it's perfect for Spalletti to implement his stuff, which I don't really think he's had an opportunity to do so yet. I think he's kind of just keeping the ship afloat right now until he's able to really dig in, and we'll get an idea what his plans are for the team tactically, I think, over the next couple matches. But for right now, they're at least playing harder. And I know that we've been saying since we started this podcast, the main thing we wanted to see was effort, and we have been seeing that.
Definitely. On that note, let's just jump right into the first game that post Tudor with Brambilla with Juventus Udinese. Juventus winning 3-1. 2 penalties from Vlahovic and Yildiz, and the head and goal from Gatti. And then, of course, somehow Zaniolo scoring against us. Just one of those guys that somehow makes his way back to Serie A and is now starting to show his talent again that he had. But who knows what's going to happen from here? But initial thoughts on that Udinese game?
Well, it's been a minute, but I like Brembeel. I kind of wanted to stick with him before we made any decisions because I really don't think it's a coaching issue as much as others might. I think we're kind of doomed by our roster. But that was a good performance. I like the lineup. I thought it was gutsy to come out there with kind of a different idea right off rip. It wasn't like he was changing the whole world, but it was definitely a different idea, and I liked it. I like Yildiz. I like the spot that Yildiz was in, especially. And I do like seeing Zaniolo score. I'm a Zaniolo fan. He's my kind of shithead, so I don't mind it.
I think the first initial reaction I had seeing the lineup was the 2 strikers up top when we had starting up with Vlahovic. He was paired with Openda and Yildiz behind him. I think that Yildiz is meant to be behind a striker or 2 strikers, whatever. He's meant to play centrally and then drift out in those wide positions and do those 1v1s and find the ball and use his skill moves through. But I thought that was my initial reaction. But as well, Cambiaso moving to the right side and having Philip Kostic come in. That is something I think fans have been dying to see. Not Kostic, but Cambiaso play in the position he is best at. And we saw it. We saw what he looks like in that best position, something we've known since his time here, since his time before joining us. He is a right back at heart. And so him playing on the left and Tudor system and even in Monta's system sometimes, it just didn't look like him. So I think the right back position for him, or right wing back he was playing, where he can come a bit more forward, drop back, cut in the middle, play midfield at times. It works for him, and I think we saw that initially.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think Kostic has been very underappreciated in his time here. I think that I don't care if he's one dimensional. He does what he does very well. He fights hard for the ball. He can send in good crosses. So I'm not an anti-Kostic person at all. And it gave Cambiaso the opportunity to play on the right. He was good there for Italy. He's been good in the past there. I think he's good on both sides. I just think really Cambiaso, he's a talented kid who's had a lot of bad influences around him. He's been on a lot of bad teams with a lot of bad leadership. And I think he's just kind of victim to that. I think it's, his inconsistent performances are indicative of that exact thing. So, no, that was definitely a good move. And he's kind of been sitting there for the past couple games too, which is good to see. As long as
definitely. I think too, you mentioned earlier, but Vlahovic has definitely felt the resurgence a bit. Tudor gone. I mean, Tudor always backed Vlahovic. Every manager that we've had has always kind of had Vlahovic's back. And he's getting more trust again, first from Brian Bila, but we'll talk a bit more with Spalletti. But I think Vlahovic is taking on this leadership position and calling out the players that, like, we put ourselves in this position. It's time to step up. And he's in an interesting position because it seems certain that he would be leaving this team at end of season, if not in January. And as of reports of late that there's talks of maybe renewing him. I'm not sure if that's going to happen or not, but we do see a fire lit under Vlahovic, and I think that is the type of leadership we need, at least going into this stretch of period where, again, you mentioned earlier, it's an easier schedule than what we've had, and one of those where leadership takes over and motivates the team and can really push them through what was a tough time, and now with Spalletti coming in to steady the ship. But what are your thoughts with Vlahovic?
I mean, he's been a good super sub this year. I don't know if he's playing because he wants to stay here. I don't know if he's playing, as an advertisement for other clubs to give him the money that he wants. For whatever reason, he's been playing really well this year. I think he's a super talented dude. I think that the world is lacking talented strikers right now. I think there are very few actually good strikers on planet Earth. And if he does end up getting his head out of his ass like he seems to be doing this year, he could be that guy for us. My question is, let's say we do renew him, he agrees to whatever price. Does he slide back into oblivion again and start, being unable to control the ball and playing sloppy, or does he maintain this form where, especially in the last game, he was an absolute animal. And that's what I want to see out of these guys. And, all the former players, when they were referencing the better players on our team, Vlahovic is in there every time because he's undoubtedly talented. And I don't know what it is about these guys. Maybe they make too much money. Maybe they get too many massages from the health staff or whatever. But they just don't seem to just be able to turn it on like they used to anymore. Too many distractions or whatnot. But if he can maintain this form and actually take some pride in what he's doing for a living, which is playing a children's game for millions of dollars, maybe he can actually go out there and maintain this form consistently. That would be great. We really need that. I mean, it makes a big difference for us. I think him performing this way as a starter has had probably the biggest impact on our team, period.
Definitely. You mentioned with the contract running down, we don't know if it kind of reminds me of the Rabiot situation. When Rabiot was in that contract year, that was his best year by far. He was scoring goals. He was doing everything that he wasn't doing in the years we had him before, which prompted the club to renew him just for that time being. And then he was gone. But it's something, though, that we've seen with Vlahovic is that leadership taking strength. He has shown to be a leader. I think he speaks very well and highly of the team, but calls them out when needed to be. I think he has been doing a lot better to motivate the team on the field as well. He still does. The one thing that annoys me is just the constant complaints and always kind of crying for the ball or putting his hands up, but he's gotten a lot better than past. And I do think, back to the Udinese game with Openda, I think having the two strikers up top gave Vlahovic the space to kind of move around, to not just be the target guy. And for all the slack that Openda's been getting, I too have had my concerns with some of his IQ ability when receiving the ball and his finishing ability. But Openda makes great moves. He knows how to move off the ball. I will give him that. He creates a lot of space. It's just on ball, sometimes the decision making's not there.
Yeah, I think he's just lacking confidence. I don't know I think a lot of players go go through these dips in form. But I mean, he's fast. He's athletic. Like you said, he moves off the ball. And, you know, we're the state of our team right now. I'll take it. You know, he's making, like you said, he's making space for Vlahovic. So, yeah, I mean, he's gonna eventually start ripping shots. He's gonna hit the damn net once in a while. If you keep shooting, if you keep putting yourself in those spots, eventually one will go in, and then another one will go in. You know, that was like the whole Keane thing. Everyone was freaking out about Keane a couple years ago. I was a fan of Keane. I was also a fan of Rabiot too. I actually like that team a whole lot better than I like this team. But, you know, there was no reason to offload Keane. I mean, he was creating a ton of opportunities. He was working well with the team. Great hold-up play. He was doing all the things right except for the last phase. Eventually, that part will come, as we can see. You know, now he's doing just fine. So, yeah, I mean, Openda, I'm not sure what the deal is. I think he's here on a loan with an obligation or option, whatever. But keep running him out there. I mean, sure, yeah, we bought David. We bought him for free. We could sell David and make money on him. So that's not a bad deal. Openda is not a bad deal. It's a loan with an option or whatever it is. If one of those two guys wants to actually, you know, become a staple of the starting lineup, I'm all for it. There's not a single player on this team that's irreplaceable right now. So go out there and earn your spot, earn your check.
Definitely. Just so you know, according to reports, that Openda is here if Juve finish 1st through 10th. So the odds of that are high.
He's in. Okay, so
yes.
what's the price for him that we have to pay?
40 million.
Okay,
euros,
I mean,
yeah.
for a striker, that's not horrible. So we're paying 40 million for Openda next year.
Yes.
Okay.
So I do think it's good to just get him out there. I do think though that confidence as a striker, as a forward, comes with goals. So I do think he will need to see the back of the net at some point. Just because it's obvious. I think his link-up play is great. His movement's great. Just the finishing's not there. He'll always pass out if he can, or he'll try to make a pass that leads to a dispossession or a turnover. I'm hopeful in him. I'm not giving up yet. I think the bigger concern is kind of Jonathan David right now, who kind of seems to be stuck in a bit of a limbo period where he's getting maybe 10, 15 minutes on field, or he's coming in as like a very last minute sub to buy time. He hasn't been getting too involved in the play, and when he does, it's not anything spectacular. But he was free. If it doesn't work out this season, I can see the club cashing in on him and just making a quick buck. I hope that's not the case, because it's just not good to have a cycle of strikers constantly coming in and coming out. But I do think David, I've said it before in the past, and that was pre kind of this period of Jonathan David we're seeing where he was getting chances and it didn't look well. But I do think he does need a bit more time on the field, just like with any new player. But he's stuck. It's a tough position, and Vlahovic right now is the number one guy that's kind of always going to be called up. Earlier this season, Vlahovic was the super sub that we were like, he needs to be on the bench, but now it's kind of he needs to be on the field for the leadership, for the energy he's showing on the pitch. So with Spalletti coming in, I do think he's got kind of a little puzzle to figure out with this striking trio, and to see what works best. And I think right now Vlahovic is what's working best, but trying to find those minutes for those guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a bad problem to have, but it's an issue we didn't really need to have. But
Yeah.
this is what happens when you build a team based on market opportunities and not actually because you're trying to build a team. With all the, we have truly in our trident, we have Yildiz, Conceição, Zagrova. You could throw Adzic in there as well. You have Openda, David, and Vlahovic. You have 7 guys vying for 3 positions. So may the best man win. And it's as simple as that. To me, the best players will play. Yildiz hasn't put the ball in the net in a while. I mean, he's definitely one of our. He
scored the penalty.
It's a penalty. Not an open play. I think the stat was like 10 games.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's made the best man win. Yildiz is 20 years old. To put all our hopes and faith into Yildiz, I think is crazy, especially since we don't have a very cohesive team right now. We're definitely messy, we're on our third coach within a year here still. So, let's give the 20-year-old a break. Give him a game coming off the bench. Give him a game where he rests completely. We don't need to always have him out there. Let some of the other guys get in there and try to get settled in. Yildiz isn't going anywhere. We know he's our guy. So, his spot's safe, but we can't just keep throwing him out there. We got all these other guys that we're trying to work into the squad, especially against this easier stretch of games. That's just my opinion. What I'd like to see Spalletti do is get guys like David, get guys like Openda, into the action. And the only way you do that is by giving them a little more consistent playing time, throwing them out there in trash minutes. Even if the game's close, it's 10 minutes to, earn your place is tough. So, give them a couple starts, and if shit's hitting the fan, you can bring the guys off the bench to settle it down. But as of right now, I want to see a lot of these guys get used, especially Zagrova. I mean, this is a guy, I don't know what injury he has, a little baby boo-boo he's got that he just can't seem to muster up any minutes. But I mean, this guy's got to be out there. He's definitely better than Chico, and but probably at least at the very least on the same level as Yildiz as far as what he actually does when he's on the field. So I want to see a little more Zagrova here.
Yeah, the whole attacking is opposite of last year, where there was a lack of depth. Now there's too much depth, and I only wish that was the case for the defense. Again, defense is going to keep being a problem. It has been consistently. There's always a crack, no matter even if a game by Juventus it looks good, is going well. There's always a moment where the defense messes up, shakes up. There's always something. But I do want to move on to the next two games against Cremonese and Sporting, where we've seen Coop Miners get a little bit of a resurgence. He's not. Again, it's two games. He played at the left center back position in both games, but we saw involvement. I actually enjoyed what I saw from him. He was passing better. He had a better look at the field and control of the game for him. He mentioned earlier in player quotes saying that he likes being deeper, being in the midfield. He doesn't like his back turned to goal. He's told the club he doesn't want to be in an attacking position, and it's been showing with this back line experience and be able to connect with the midfield a bit more.
I mean, he when he was, everyone was telling me when we signed him, he was the best midfielder in all of Serie A. He was playing as an attacking midfielder. So, he's been useful back there. I think he's still very poor defender, and he can spank some balls forward. That's good. That's pretty basic, but I'm not too pumped about it. I don't think he's been doing a great job. I just think he's sucked less, and I think with him at this point, we'll take it. That's my analysis on his two games. I don't think he can defend for shit, but neither could Kelly, so it's about the same. And maybe he passes a little bit better. That's about it to me.
I think it's, from what we've seen of him, it's been hard. I understand your position of like he's been bad. He sucked less. I do think with him being okay, we've seen a difference with this team. Spalletti's first match was a 2-1 victory. That's with Filip Kostic getting the first goal in the second minute, and Cambiaso getting the winning goal. Again, that was a needless game that in the last 10 minutes with Jamie Vardy, the 40-year-old man, coming in and bodying Gatti off ball to get an easy one-on-one opportunity against Di Gregorio. He's a proven striker. He's going to finish that all day. But it was just one of those moments where the back line, where somebody going up against Jamie Vardy at this point in time in 2025, like Gatti, should be able to bully him off the ball. And another moment where, again, I'm not Gatti's biggest supporter. I wouldn't even say I'm his biggest fan or a fan of him. But he has these moments where he can play against the best of the best, but when it comes to lowly teams and guys, he makes these mistakes, and it's so frustrating to watch as a fan.
Well, yeah, it wasn't the smartest choice when you're the last. So he was completely isolated by his other two center backs, and he's going up against Vardy, who's he's 40, but this is 2025. being 40 and having a sack is pretty valuable. I think today most of these guys are bitches. So, Vardy's no slouch, and he should have dropped off and played it safe. He didn't. He's dumb. That's what dumb people do. But it was a 50-50 chance to win it. He lost the battle. I mean, that stuff happens. I at least like the fact that he went in there and tried to make the play. I mean, if you're going to go. You see a lot of these guys hesitate. They get caught in no man's land. But my question is, where's his help? Where's the midfield? Why is that happening? Why are we breaking down like that? Why are we leaving Gatti? Why is Gatti even playing in the center in the first place? I mean, if we're going to be playing this with such aggressive, left center backs and right center backs, I mean, Gatti's certainly not the guy I want back there. I either want Rugani in the middle or, better case would be Bremer, but he's not available. I just don't like Gatti in that spot. I think he's much better on the right. And I think that was a case in point. You got, you're in a position where you're the last man back. You're totally on an island against a savvy veteran striker. And you just back up a little bit, slow it down, let your guys catch up, defend as a team. They're of course gingerly jogging back too. No rush, But yeah, he just made not the sharpest tool in the shed. Made a bad choice, but at least he made a choice. And I'm not too pissed about that stuff. That's like gaffes. I'm not too hard on people for when they make mistakes like that. Like when keepers fumble a ball or something. That kind of shit happens. As long as you're trying to make the play, that's fine. That shit happens. When you're just out of the play, when you're lazy, when you don't go for it, that's when I get really pissed at players. So yeah, not his finest hour, but that shit happens. I'm not too worried about it.
With that win, Juventus is in 6th in Serie A with 18 points, just 4 off Napoli at top. We called it. It's an early season. There's still so many games left to play. With Luciano Spalletti coming in, there's a lot of hope tactically on field that we've seen. The passing play, in my opinion, has gone a lot better, especially in those tight spaces to come out of. I think I'm hopeful still for Serie A. I do think that top 4 is feasible, but I do think I'm cautiously and hopefully optimistic, maybe to a point a little delusionally optimistic, but I do think Juventus could come out of Serie A winning the Scudetto. There's so much time. I think it's up to the players. I know this isn't your favorite team. This isn't, you think the mentality of these guys are at an all-time low, but I do think that with Spalletti, there's a lot of accountability to be had, and I'm hopeful that the players do respond to that.
I mean, he's saying the right things. That's important, but a lot of these guys do. I'm just curious if this is just new manager bounce. If they finally feel bad now after getting 2 coaches fired. Well, really 3. I don't think they got Max fired. I think that was more of, never mind. You get what I'm saying. Max, I don't want to get into that because they never should get rid of Max, but Max gone, Malta gone, Tudor gone. I mean, at what point is it your fault, right? So I've always said it was their fault, except for the Max one, but the Malta and the Tudor one. So maybe they're taking some accountability finally. Who knows what it is? Who knows how long it's going to last? I don't have much faith in these guys. I think they're more interested in their haircuts and their tattoos and their selfies. But we'll see. Prove me wrong. All I want to see is effort. I don't care if they make mistakes. I don't care if they bobble stuff. They'll win more games than they'll lose if they play like hell. And that's the most important thing. And I think at least it was against weak competition. They did play hard, and I'm sure we'll get into the sporting match a little bit. But there was a lot of missed opportunities there, but they were creating them. They were on it for most of the game, and every team is going to have these screw ups. And as bad as I think our team is, and I think it is, there's no other team right now that's really that great, truly, and it's especially in Serie A. I mean, it's not like there's some incredible team that's just got our number. I mean, Inter is probably the most talented team in the league still. You can see that from they're getting their results back together. They got out of their slump. Shit happens. They're in a slump. No one needs to freak out. I think we did the cast with was it Alex Dono?
Yep.
He was upset about the lack of signings. It's like, well, you got a good team, and look at the signings they made. They just bringing a guy like Pio up from the youth squad and surrounding him with the established team, and then Boney's been looking pretty good. Akanji, like that. That's where we need to get. We need to get our core at a level to whereas we can bring in one or two guys and they can have an impact. Right now, it's a total free for all, and as soon as that dust settles and Spalletti picks his shape, picks his guys, we'll start being able to hopefully, this is my hope, establish at least a few guys as core players. Because right now we don't really know who those are besides, just by necessity, Locatelli. And Gatti should be a squad guy, but he's been one of our better defenders and he's always available. So, we have to deal with him.
I think one thing with just the Scudetto and everything and being in Serie A, one of Juventus's issues in the past and this year has been those small teams. It's always been either somehow we're drawing or somehow we give up a very winnable opportunity. It's so the last two results being smaller teams and getting the results in the win column, to me, is just a good start. And I do want to see us holding our ground for this upcoming stretch that we'll get into later. But I do want to transition to the Champions League that Juventus was in yesterday, back at home playing against Sporting. Juventus are winless in the Champions League still. They drew 1-1 with Vlahovic and scoring the only goal for Juventus. That first 15, 20 minutes was a rough watch. Just easy giveaways. I think the reaction, as we've seen with this iteration of Juve, that the reaction always comes after the goal. And that's exactly what happened this game. I want to get your reactions first, though.
Well, so out of the three matches here, if we're looking for some resurgence from Spalletti, that's the match that I would point to say more of the same. This is Sporting. They're pretty good in Portugal. This is a team that we should be better than them, especially based on the amount of money we paid for this roster. So I'm not looking at Sporting with any I don't think they're that great of a team. I think that we should have easily beat them, but more, sloppy, lazy. I think that it was a very, in general, disorganized game. I think in the Champions League, the European teams are going to give you more space than they do in Italy. So we're going to have more opportunities naturally. The issue is they're going to create more chances and more trouble for our defenders, especially when we have lazy midfielders. That first goal was just Thuram and Locatelli being super lazy and not getting behind the ball when they knew exactly where they needed to be, and they weren't there. And then McKennie reacting too late and not getting up on it. That's really, and they could have had a couple more too, just like we could have. There was a couple nice saves from their keeper, but they hit they hit a crossbar as well. So everyone gets just as lucky as everyone else in the end. It all balances out. But I think that game, if there's a red flag for Spalletti, that's the red flag right there. I think that we need to figure out how to fix this defense. And I don't think that there is much. I don't think there are many good defenders anymore. I think maybe you can count on one hand how many good defenders there actually are on planet Earth. And most teams are playing team defense through their midfield. And if we don't get that sorted out, we are going to really struggle, especially with patchwork defenders like Kelly, like Coop Miners, like Gatti, like Kalulu. All those guys should be backups at best somewhere, and we're starting all of them. That's our starting. They're all backups to me. So we really got to make sure we're covering them up and organizing, and that's where I don't like Spalletti very much. I don't think he knows how to organize defensively. I think that we'll pass the ball over the place and run blitzkriegs, and everyone's going to have fun and bust out the champagne. But when it comes down to brass tacks, in my opinion, the Juve way of playing organized discipline, uncompromising defense, that's just not what we're going to see. And I think right now, especially with the lack of quality we have, we need to really be playing team defense, especially as when we come out to start games, to just form our, settle the game down, I would like to start at least with a strong defensive foundation and build forward from there, as opposed to just, being porous as hell.
I think the defense is going to continue to be an issue. We've noticed that for this entire time we've been recording this podcast, that the defense is going to be an issue. The lack of bringing in signings in the summer for even defensive cover, knowing that Bremer was coming from an ACL injury, Cabal was coming back from an ACL injury. Two guys who are most likely going to be injury riddled for the rest of the season, just because that's what happens after coming off a big injury. So not filling in any position or even calling up a next gen player to start learning the ropes and getting some playing time, just not doing anything to address the defense is where it's gonna bite us in the ass for the rest of the season if it's not covered in January. Having Coop Miners be able to center back for a game or two, having Locatelli be a center back maybe for a game or two, like those are all stopgap solutions that are not long term and shouldn't be treated as long term. But at the moment, with the injuries in the defense, Lloyd Kelly out right now as well. That's why Coop Miners has had to play in the back. It's only going to get worse. And I think I haven't even seen many reports, whether they're fake or not, even linking us to a defender. It's all midfield talk or another attacking player talk. So it's concerning at the moment with the defense. And it's one of those that I hope Spalletti can find a solution for the time being. Or else it's just going to be what we've been saying this whole time, a disaster at the back. But back to the sporting game, I thought we saw Zagrova. We saw him. I was getting a little bit worried for a second. I didn't think I didn't think we were going to see him until after another international break. But he's back, or he got playing time. I won't say he's back. I don't know, but he got playing time. Yes. I in my head, I'm thinking he's going to be the next Milik or something. So just at least when I saw him on the touchline warming up, I'm telling you, I was like, wow, let's go. Like he's at least doing something on the field right now.
You saw those double XL shorts, baby. You're like, yeah, there he is. There's my man.
Prime 2000s basketball, early 2000s NBA shorts.
I like it, man. Wear what's comfortable.
He's got the personality for sure. But it was an okay cameo. Again, he hasn't been playing with this team too much, but we see the talent there. It's building up. We just need to see the 90 minutes. But what were your thoughts? Just one on Zagrova, but two on that second half as a whole with the subs coming in.
Well, I'll start with Zagrova because I definitely want to talk about Adzic already. I like Zagrova, but and I think he was certainly off his game. He has impact, he has presence. I like that a lot. I think when a player walks onto the field and you can't help but notice him, that's a good sign. His touch off, of course. Some of his passes were a little off. Of course, he hasn't been playing consistently. We know he can do that stuff. That'll come back relatively quickly. But I don't think Zagrova is some world-class, amazing player. But as we kind of said before the season started, I think out of all those attackers we mentioned earlier in the podcast, he's one of the few that offers us something different. He's a focal point. He's creative. We really need that. And then, couple that with, one of our other weaknesses is a complete lack of creativity in the midfield. Moretti looked really good with his passing, quick, mostly quick decisions. He is in the beginning. He took a little bit of time to make his passes, and then as the game went on, a lot better passes, a lot better vision, and it just goes to show the quality difference when you have a guy that actually has technique, that has vision. How many opportunities he was able to create with just a boom, quick pass, a nice couple of balls over the top too to some strikers. That's the kind of stuff we need really out of our midfield. And so I hope that, and I'm sure we're selling him. I just know we are. This is the way this club works. It's just, we just get aroused over Plus Valenza so much. And he's just he'll be the last of that era of next gen guys to go. But I really hope that he gets more playing time and cements a spot here because we need what he offers. And it really takes a lot of pressure off Locatelli because Locatelli, everyone was creaming their pants over Hillmont. I mean, Hillmont's just a blonde Locatelli, guys. We got to really stop obsessing over foreign players in foreign leagues, and because we don't see them every single day in and day out. I could say that about our defense. I mean, if you look at our defense and how bad it is, just go watch any other Champions League team, besides maybe like the top couple teams in the world. I mean, hell, you could look at Real Madrid there. I mean, I don't care who's playing defense for them. They're not a great defensive team. It's just not something that exists right now. You just can't buy players and upgrade your defense. These guys don't know how to defend. It's as simple as that. And like when you got a guy like Locatelli who's out there making tackles and working his butt off, and we want him to be a regista. He's just not a regista. He's not creative. He's not technically sound. He's a pretty good passer. He's not a great passer. It takes the pressure off him having a guy like Moretti out there who can actually move the ball around a little bit. And I think that's what we kind of all wanted Douglas Luiz to be last year, but he was just too damn lazy or whatever the hell happened. Who knows? But and then Ozic, I really like a lot. I like Thuram. I thought it was a good signing. It was the right price. But, man, he is quite tactically inept. He made a great forward run for the goal, right? But, man, he cannot – he just his technique's poor. His defending is he's never been great at it. And if he doesn't shape up for me, if he doesn't improve, if he doesn't progress, and a lot of that's because he hasn't, for whatever reason, I'm making an excuse for him. Maybe the coaches haven't helped him progress. I think the door's wide open for Ozic. I think Ozic is a totally underrated tackler, covers a lot more ground than you might think. And we know he can spank some shots, which he really lack. If our midfielders just can't.
Yeah.
Thuram sent him to Rosie. Locatelli sending him out the sideline. It's shameful. These guys make millions and millions of dollars. They've been playing this game their whole entire life, and they can't hit that gigantic net. Just put it on the net. I don't even care if it's a baby shot at this point. Let's start there. Let's start at least shooting him right at the goalie, and then we can build up. But we got to keep the ball inside the woodwork. At least make the goalie do something here. Who knows? Maybe we'll get a dirty rebound or something. But I'd like to see more of Adzic and Moretti. I think I'd like to see maybe one of them start, and then one of them come on as a sub, and then switch it the next couple games. Because one of the things I've been saying, especially a lot on X, is I don't think we're not a team that can afford to buy top players, and there are so few of them that the prices are super inflated. I think we need to breed them, build from within. That's why I didn't want to sell our next gen last year when Jutli was shipping them all off. I think that we've done nothing but buy average players, and that's because we can afford what we can afford. I think guys like Adzic and Moretti, and like Yildiz, represent a player that can be more than average, and we already have him here. We don't have to pay anything for him. So let's give them the playing time. Let's let them settle in. Let's let them claim these spots that are totally up for grabs. And that's what I really want to see out of Spalletti over the next few weeks before we get to January. I want to see him really work this roster and see who we have that's actually worth a damn. We're right. Everyone's stinking it up right now in Serie A. Everyone's screwing up. Napoli's had a shit ton of injuries. Inter had their head up their ass since the Champions League final last year, and they're not now. You heard the popping sound. Heads out of the ass. They're playing now. So we had a little bit of time to waste, fumbling coaches and stuff like that. Now we got to spend a little bit more time to really shuffle this roster and see who is actually worth keeping, because at the end of this season, heads need to roll, and we need to get an actual damn game plan for what we're going to do for the next 5-6 years. So we stop making Juventus an absolute whorehouse for players. That's not the way this club is ever going to build a dynasty. We're just going to be, we might snag a Scudetto every 5 years with that random throw shit at the wall and see what sticks method. But I want to see us build that core and add slowly but surely a couple pieces each season to improve the team. Just a couple pieces that are worth a shit. I want to see us bring up a couple players from our youth system, and it all starts right now. If this is a serious club and not just a club about market opportunities and balance sheets, if we're seriously trying to build a dynasty, I think this is the last year we have to screw around. And if Spalletti's the guy that's going to come in and set us straight, part of that is getting this roster sorted out, seeing who wants to be the man, building that hierarchy within the locker room. That's very important. We've all played sports growing up. You know who the fucking man is. That's what you want to have. That's healthy. That's good. Vlahovic right now, maybe he's under assault because he's got, they bought so many damn strikers, and he's like, no, this is my team. And maybe that's what's making him step up. Maybe a little bit of healthy competition in practice is good. Imagine that.
I think you nailed it. I think that's it. Nah, I'm just kidding. But no, you nailed it. That was well said. So many touch points that I don't even want to get on because
I started ranting a little bit there.
Yeah. No, I think you nailed it. I do just want to circle really quick backly to the Champions League. Juventus again are sitting under the Champions League playoff, just a couple spots. The next games they have are Bodo Glimt, Pafos, Benfica, and Monaco. I know what you've said before. If you are not the biggest fan of the Champions League at the moment, I'm kind of with you on it that the club really has no business competing in a competition like this, but I'm also understanding that we need the finances and the money that it brings. But setting that all aside, do you think this team makes it to the knockout rounds with those teams left?
Every single one of those games is a winnable game. Every single one of them. I mean, if you look at what Atalanta is doing right now, and they have a better record in the Champions League than us, and I think they have probably about a similar roster. It's just a matter of playing harder than the other team. There's small teams that can beat big teams in the Champions League, and that it can happen in Serie A. It's just a matter of who wants it more. So I think when you open the roster up, like I was just saying, when you have the roster open, everyone's competing for spots and no one's locked in, and you can't put an 11 players out there that's hungry enough to beat. Who the hell was the first team? The next team we play? What's the name?
Bodo Glimt.
Oh yeah, the powerhouse Bodo Glimt. If you can't put out 11 players that want to really put on a show for the coach, for Lucky Luciano to see it, to advertise themselves why they should be the starter, then we have even bigger problems than I think. So for me, I'm not a big. I couldn't care less about the money. I think it's a bad thing if we continue to just eke our way along. But I think that what we should use the Champions League for right now is sorting out exactly that. Play some of the guys that don't get to play as much, and I think in Serie A you put your whoever Luciano thinks are the best guys to start. I think you start those guys every single week. And then Champions League, you kind of mix and match and have some fun with it and see what works, especially with the remaining schedule we have.
I agree. I think those are all winnable games. Saying that, though, as a Juventus fan, winnable kind of means nothing at the moment. But I do think it's all possible. I'd like to see us just go advance the next round. I'm more of the thought that I'd rather, even if it comes at a cost of playing too many games or any of that, it's just I want to always see us play against the best teams. If we, let's say, next round is matched up against PSG, I'd love to see it. I want to see how we'd face against a team like that, or a Man City or people like those. Like, it's those games to me are special because we tend to surprise, especially that game last year against Man City where we looked at the worst that it could be. We were in a terrible situation and we came out to win. Granted, City were also in a bad situation, but it doesn't matter. It's just one of those games where it means a bit more to get that win. So I hope that we advance to the next round. There's one thing left. There's next game is the Derby, the Torino Derby, the Derby Della Mole, against Torino. What do you want to see Spalletti do for that game? I don't want any predictions for how that game's going to go. I just want to know what you think and what you want to see from Spalletti.
I want to see Spalletti continue to mix the lineup up, and I want to see our players earn every single inch out there. I don't want to see goals like we saw against Sporting. Seeing our midfielders behind the ball are, and I know McKennie doesn't, he gets shuffled all over the place. I like McKennie. I think he's been very serviceable, and you have to respect his work ethic. and he doesn't seem to bitch or whine about it. So I'm not going to give him too hard of a time, but you got to get out on that guy a little bit faster. And he didn't create the problem. But the point is, I don't want to see goals like that anymore. I would rather see a goal like Vardy on Gatti any day than the goal like we saw against Sporting. There's no excuse for that. So what I want to see Spalletti do is I want to see him put guys out there that are hungry, that want it. I want to see him mix in Odzic and Moretti. I want to see him try to figure out what he's going to do with our attack. You know, are we going to keep running this 3-4-3 or whatever we want to call it, 3-4-2-1? You don't want anyone to blow a vessel over that. It's 3-4-3 to me. Are we going to stick with that? And if we are, what's our trident look like? You know, can we give Yildiz a rest against Torino? Maybe bring him on as a sub if we just can't somehow can't seem to score a goal with our $300 million attack or whatever the hell it is. You know, we should have enough guys out there to be able to rotate and give Yildiz a freaking rest. I mean, if Yildiz is really hurting, you know, then rest the kid. We don't want to blow these players out. You know, we really can't afford it, and we don't seem to be able to recover players very well at all. So let's give him a break. Let's throw Openda out there on the left. He should be totally fine out there. Let's get Zagrova and Chico on a nice rotation on the right-hand side. Give me a little bit of Adzic and then bring in Moretti for him. And, let Thuram rest. If Thuram's injured right now, this isn't looking good for him because, I was already critical of him towards the end of last year and the beginning of this year. And now he's got some injury. We don't need him against Torino. We should be able to beat Torino with who we got. So I want to see Spalletti work the roster. I want to see some of these guys earn their positions, and I want to see them fight, man. Just like I said at the beginning of the season, I want to see us win all the loose balls. Mark your freaking man so tight that he doesn't ever want to come back over to you because you're such a pain in the ass. That's what I want to see.
Awesome. On that note, Juventus get that game on Saturday, November 8th. And after that, somehow, some way, there's an international break.
Baby. That's my favorite.
Just some time off. Like you said, with the injuries that players don't recover well, this is a perfect time to rest those guys, especially against Torino. Rest those guys, let them recover. Hopefully none of them are called up for the national team, so they get time to recover from their injury. But the next game after this weekend isn't until November 22nd. So there's some time for Spalletti to figure things out. I know he'll have some guys gone for the international break, but gives him time to really settle in and get things right, steer things straight. I think the Torino game will be another good match to see what he has to offer. But I do think after the international break, there will be a big change up, especially with that formation. I can't imagine us sticking with that. I think it was just for the time being to have those guys stay in it, to get them what they're used to, but find ways to tactically make it a bit better. But I think there will be a bit of a shakeup when we come back.
I do too. Yeah.
But that's all we got for this episode. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.